Madam, you speak something. Being there itself, you speak.
Structure of human sperm.
Yeah.
It is also
Yeah, it's coming. That's all. Mic is given.
Good evening, students. Today I am going to continue with structure of human sperms. As I told yesterday, human sperms are broadly divided into head, neck, middle piece, and the tail. So those different parts we are going to study. So this part I told yesterday was the head region of the sperm. Following the head, the portion of the sperm becomes depressed and it becomes constricted or narrow. This narrow part or constricted part is called as the neck of the sperm. Now, which are the different parts present in the head as well as neck of the sperms and their functions? So the head region consists of acrosome and nucleus. These are the main structures present in the head region of sperm. The first part I am going to explain you all is about the acrosome. What is the function of acrosome and what it is? Acrosome is a vesicle. A vesicle is a structure which is sac-like and it is developed. So also is acrosome, sac-like in structure, or it is a vesicle. Now the location of acrosome is, it is supposed to be present anterior to the nucleus of the sperm. Next is, from where did acrosome form? As the sperms will be maturing in seminiferous tubules, these acrosomes will be formed from Golgi bodies. So they are basically formed from Golgi bodies. Now, what is the importance of acrosomes? Acrosomes have certain chemicals called sperm lysins. Now there are three known sperm lysins, commonly known as sperm lysins. The first one is acrosin. It is also called zona lysin. The second enzyme is called corona penetrating enzyme. The third one is hyaluronidase. These three altogether are called sperm lysins, and where they are present? They are present in acrosome. Now, what is the nature of these three is, all the three are actually enzymes. That means acrosome, apart from these three, also has enzymes. They are hydrolytic enzymes. The kind of enzymes present in acrosomes are called as hydrolytic enzymes. So this is the next point, that is acrosome consists of hydrolytic enzymes. You all have might studied in the first year that hydrolytic enzyme belongs to a class of enzymes called hydrolase. That is, especially it belongs to class 3 enzymes. The first class was oxidoreductase, as you have studied in the last year. The second is transferase, and the third is hydrolase, that is class 3. So class 3 enzymes are nothing but hydrolytic enzyme that utilizes a water molecule and then breaks the bond. These are also called hydrolases. Now, what is the function of sperm lysins? These sperm lysins helps to penetrate the ovum during fertilization. So as the sperm fertilizes the ovum, the sperm has to cross the various egg membranes, and to cross those membranes itself, these enzymes, these three main sperm lysins are important for fertilization. Human ovum will be covered by zona pellucida, also will be covered by corona radiata. Then how these membranes are crossed? The sperm has to penetrate and cross corona radiata, then it has to cross zona pellucida and finally fuse with the membrane of ovum. This penetration or this fertilization or crossing the egg membranes is helped by these three sperm lysins. Then acrosome, since it forms a cap-like structure in front of the nucleus, it is also called gallia capitis. So these are some of the important points which you should know about acrosome. This acrosome will also be undergoing changes during capacitation. So during capacitation, acrosome is made, that means it is made, the changes made is such that it is easy for acrosome to fertilize the ovum. The next part is nucleus of sperm. So nucleus of sperm, as you all know already, it is a male gamete or it is a male reproductive cell. It should be haploid. So it consists of 23 chromosomes. And therefore, it also becomes genetic material in the sperm. So which is the genetic material within the sperm is of course in the nucleus. The chromosomes within this nucleus, including the DNA, which it refers, the DNA as well as chromosome, they get condensed. So ultimately nucleus is also highly condensed and any unwanted material is excluded outside. So that means the nucleus becomes more compact and condensed. So what is the use that the nucleus becomes condensed? The use of nucleus becoming condensed is the sperm, as the sperm moves in a reproductive tract or within the reproductive tract of either male or female, there will be no damage. So a condensed nucleus can be easily protected from damage. So there are some proteins present inside the nucleus called protamine that also have protective role. A nucleus of the sperm is oval in shape, whereas the surrounding cytoplasm is very less. Now the outer region, that is nothing but the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane lies very close to various structures in sperm because the cytoplasm content is less. So outer membrane. And also you should know that cytoplasm is reduced. So this was about the plasma membrane. And there is a membrane which covers the head region, also continues in the middle piece. It's called mantite and it may have a role in transport. Now next is the centriole, which usually lies perpendicular to each other. There are two centrioles present. One centriole which is near to the nucleus is called proximal centriole. And another is just below the proximal centriole, that you can tell in the neck region. It is called as distal centriole. Now, what is the function of proximal centriole? As its location, which is near to the nucleus with the proximal or distal? Proximal is near to the nucleus. So, proximal centriole, what its role is? Suppose when a sperm will fertilize an ovum, ovum do not have centrioles, so there is no centrioles in the ovum. Now sperm itself should contribute its centriole to the ovum, so that when the after zygote is formed, the same centriole will start producing spindle fibers, and once the spindle fibers are formed, that will help in cell division. So therefore, the contributor, that means inside the sperm cells there is a proximal centriole. The sperm contributes its proximal centriole, and once zygote is formed, they start producing spindle fibers. So they are necessary for cell division, or you can tell they are very necessary for spindle formation. Spindle formation is more referring to a specific function. So proximal centriole produces spindle fibers. Then, due to production of spindle fibers, what is possible? Cell division is possible. So it helps in special kind of mitotic division occurring in zygote. So it helps in cell division that occurs during fertilization. So these two are the functions of proximal centriole. Proximal centriole is more towards the nucleus. Its location is more towards the nucleus. The next one is distal centriole. What is distal centriole? This centriole lies posterior to the proximal centriole. It is also, these centrioles are present in the neck region of sperms. Now, function of distal centriole is it produces fibrils, and they are called as axial filament. It produces axial filament. Axial filament is also called axoneme. So that is the function of distal centriole. And definitely from which exact part the axial filament arises is the basal body. Why we say? We say that the axial filament consists of microtubule which are in similar arrangement like that of flagella, and therefore sometimes sperm is also called uniflagellate microscopic structure. So microtubular arrangement is 9 plus 2 arrangement, where pair of microtubules in the number of 9 are arranged at the periphery. Whereas one pair is at the center. Microtubular structures are in the center. So this kind of arrangement is called 9 plus 2 arrangement of microtubules. And the same kind of arrangement also will be there in what? Flagella. That means the axial filament will continue in the tail region of sperm, and sperm now becomes flagellated sperms also. They are also called flagellated sperms. Now, where does it start? This is distal centriole. Distal centriole will start forming a basal body. So from the basal body, this is like a nucleation site from where the microtubular structures will start extending or growing. So this is called the basal body. So from here starts the microtubules extension, which is a part of axial filament. So movement of the tail is basically due to these axial filament, which is in the form of 9 plus 2 arrangement. Now it will not grow everywhere. The point of growth is in the basal body. So here this is the basal body, the point of growth. Now after the head region comes the middle piece. Compare to the head and the middle piece. The middle piece, the tail is very long. Now you can see that microtubules, these are microtubules which is represented in green here. They arise from this basal body, that is the point of production. Even movement is based on sliding of proteins present in the axial filament. Now this forms what is called the tail. This continues even in the tail of the sperms. So this was about the function of distal centriole. The function of distal centriole is to produce the axial filament. So these are the points we should be relating to distal centriole. Now comes the middle piece of the sperm. So this region is called the middle piece of the sperm. This was neck region, and the next region will be called middle piece. Now what is present in middle piece of the sperm? The middle piece we have mitochondria. So here I shall name now axial filament. Filament which will continue till tail. It is also called exoneme. And also I told that these axial filament are a 9+2 arrangement. Now inside the middle piece there is mitochondria. Now this mitochondria, which is represented in red here, that is spirally coiled around the filament called axial filament. So how is actually the mitochondria is usually in most of the cells mitochondria won't be spiral, but in sperms mitochondria will be spiral. Suppose if this is an axial filament, the mitochondria will like a spring, okay, by like a shape of a spring, it will spirally coil around the axial filament. That is how the mitochondria will be in the sperm, spirally coiled mitochondria. First point. Coiled around exoneme. Axial filament or exoneme. Second is, as usual, just like in any other cell, here also mitochondria produces ATP. It is a source of ATP. Why is ATP necessary? You all know that sperms are motile. So for movement of the sperms and for beating of the tail and for movement, subsequent movement, ATP is necessary. And that ATP comes from mitochondria, which is present in the middle piece of. Because it produces ATP, it is also called powerhouse of sperm. So it is going to be wrapping around the axial filament in a as a spiral, okay, or as a spring coil. So that is the function here of mitochondria. Now from where do sperm get energy for movement? It should be mitochondria. Know from where the ATP arises. Just like regular cell, here the ATP do not arise from glucose. ATP are not produced due to glucose. There is a centriole at the end of the middle piece. It is called ring centriole, or it is also called annulus. Its function is still not clear. Now if there is a cross section of the middle piece, field after cross section of the middle piece? It will be circular. If it is circular, it means that it is cylindrical. It means the middle piece is cylindrical. Of course, as usual, the outer part will be plasma membrane and inner layer will be the covering of mitochondria, and in the center will be axial filament. And also you should know, between the mitochondria and axial filament, fibrous covering can be there or fibrous membrane can be present. But these are the main structures present. So it's not an ultrastructure, but it is a main structure of cross section. Structures present in the cross section of middle piece. So this one is axial filament. So this completes the explanation which is for the middle piece. Then the longest part of the entire sperm will be nothing but the tail part. The tail part you can see from the beginning of the tail till the region where plasma membrane will be present, that is called the main piece of sperm or the principal piece of sperm. So tail is further divided into main piece plus end piece. These two are structures of the divisions of the tail. Now if you observe the tail, you will easily understand what is the main difference. In the main piece or principal piece, you have both plasma membrane as well as axial filament. Both are there. There is very thin rim of plasma membrane. Okay. So there is no extensive cytoplasm in this form. So this is the membrane, plasma membrane and the axial filament will form what is called main piece, the principal piece. Consists of plasma membrane and axial filament. Now end piece. What does an end piece has? End piece consists of only the axial filament. It does not have plasma membrane. So now what comes? Here what you have tried? It has only axial filament, or they are also called naked axial filament. So this was about explanation regarding the tail of the sperm. So of course movement of the tail in turn depends on these axial filaments, which utilizes ATP, the ATP molecules that has come from mitochondria, which is called powerhouse of the sperms. So this is nothing but the structure of sperms. Now, generally what you should know about the sperm? Sperm, can it can be seen through the eyes. Total length of the sperm will be approximately 55 to 60 microns. Or you can tell micrometers. In that, the head region will be 5 micron, head plus neck together can be approximately 5 micron. The middle piece is again 5 micron and tail is 50 micron. In this 50 micron, 5 micron is nothing but this end piece of tail. So here 5 micron, 5 micron and 5 micron. And the remaining will be how many microns? Approximately 45 micrometers. So that is the length of the sperm. Now, can sperm be seen through the bare eyes? Sperms are microscopic. Because width can go up till only 3.5 microns. So overall it is very small microscopic structure. It is microscopic, it is motile, it is uniflagellated. It means that it has a single tail. If it is biflagellated, it will come in abnormal structure of sperms. Normal structure of sperms, it can be two head with one tail or one head with two tail, or normality in the structure itself, structure of sperm. It will come under teratozoospermia. What is that normal structure of sperm called? Teratozoospermia. And many times if the sperm will lose its motility, means it is called as asthenospermia. So it is uniflagellate, motile, male, gamete, then all other things I explained, haploid, and quite small in size. So this completes about the structure of human sperm. You should also know that sperms can stay in the female reproductive system for up to 1 to 2 days, whereas it may not stay the same time when it is directly exposed to the environment. Sperm undergoes a phenomena inside the female reproductive tract, and that is called capacitation. Now what is capacitation? Activation of sperms in the female reproductive tract is called as capacitation. For example, sperm moves very slowly in the male reproductive system, but upon it has a undulating movement or a wavy movement it has, but upon entering the female reproductive tract, it is going to have whiplash movement, fast whiplash movement. And during capacitation, it can gain, after the capacitation, which may take up till 6 hours in the female reproductive tract, after capacitation, it will gain the speed 3 mm per minute. So, before fertilizing, it has to cross cervix, uterus, fallopian tube, and in the fallopian tube, it has to reach to ampulla. And to travel through these paths within the female reproductive tract, it gains the speed of 3 mm per minute. First time, when a sperm is formed in seminiferous tubule, it will not have good motility. It will not have motility. The first time motility comes when it undergoes physiological maturation in epididymis. Other concepts which you should know in sperms, that is conditions. For example, if it is azoospermia, it is absence of sperms. It is oligospermia, absence of less number of sperms. And if it is teratozoospermia, abnormal structure, asthenospermia, lack of motility, or you can tell dead sperms. So these are some of the conditions with respect to the sperms. Now I will explain about the structure of human ovum. Structure of human ovum. Now, before explaining its structure, what all you should know about the ovum itself. Ovum is a female gamete. It is a female gamete. How it is formed? Just like how sperms are formed by spermatogenesis, ovum is formed by oogenesis. Some of the primordial germ cells in the fetal stage will form oogonia, and that will undergo what is called oogenesis and produce ovum. The ovum of humans is non-motile, and therefore it requires support for motility. So non-motile. Then how come the ovum moves in the fallopian tube? It is already explained. It is due to ciliary action in the epithelium of fallopian tube, and second is the fallopian tube also has smooth muscles that can exhibit peristalsis, which also can support the movement of ovum. So both together helps in movement of ovum in the fallopian tube. But when a single cell is seen, it is actually non-motile female gamete. So reasons, ciliary movement in the epithelium of fallopian tube. Then second, peristalsis. So these two are the reasons why the ovum can move within the female reproductive tract. Once the ovum is released from the Graafian follicle, which I have explained in previous class already, that release of ovum will be in secondary oocyte stage. Ovum here refers to secondary oocyte stage, and that release of the secondary oocyte from the mature Graafian follicle will be called ovulation. Ovulation occurs once in a month in one ovary, or it keeps alternating every month. In case if there is ovarectomy, then the same ovary continues to produce the ovum every month. So here it is a female gamete, it's non-motile, and of course, as usual, you should also know it as haploid. Ovum also is haploid, where it is called, represented by N, and is equal to 23 chromosomes. You know that human beings have a total of 46 chromosomes. Now what happens? Sperm has 23 chromosomes, ovum has 23. Then resulting zygote will have 46 chromosomes. It means that diploid state in human being is maintained by this fertilization, fusion of sperm with that of ovum. So that maintains the diploid chromosome number in the zygote, and of course subsequently the diploid state in the organism. That is the human beings. So these are some of the points which you should know in the ovum. Ovum is also quite large compared to sperm. So this is the structure of sperm. So which are the structures present? So here this one is called the nucleus of the ovum. Now what is the nucleus? You know that nucleus acts as genetic material. And the chromosome number here is haploid. The chromosome number is 23. But the stage that is released after ovulation is secondary oocyte. That you have to know. Now nucleus is a genetic material. What you can observe is initially nucleus won't be at the borders, but during the development of various follicles and as the ovum also develops, the nucleus moves towards the periphery. And if the nucleus is present at the periphery, that nucleus is called eccentric nucleus. And inside within it, what is observed is nucleolus. It's called. So nucleus is also called germinal vesicle, and nucleolus is also called germinal spot. Also in the periphery, there are some granules which you can observe, which is represented here as green, which is green in form of green. So these vesicles are called as cortical granules. They are called as cortical granules. What is the role of cortical granules? Cortical granules can have certain types of polysaccharides, and inside this granule there can be certain protein digesting enzymes. Now the role of cortical granule is cortical reaction. It brings about cortical reaction. As the sperm will fertilize the ova, the contents of the cortical granules will be released outside. So a cortical reaction also is responsible for prevention of polyspermy. So apart from zona pellucida, it is actually the cortical granule also supports the prevention of polyspermy. So that those are called as cortical granules. They will be present at the periphery just under the plasma membrane. But what happens is their contents will be released once the calcium release is there from the endoplasmic reticulum. This, however, will be known in the further classes. Now, just outer to this cortical granules will be called plasma membrane, and plasma membrane of the ovum is called oolemma. Called as oolemma. So you came to know what are the main points that you should know here. The nucleus is eccentric. Cortical granules may have enzymes as well as polysaccharide, protein digesting enzymes and polysaccharides, certain types of polysaccharides can be present there. And plasma membrane is also called oolemma. So these are the points which you should know. And you also should know, if this is a plasma membrane, consider now this is the plasma membrane. Now surface of this plasma membrane can show microvilli, finger-like extensions called microvilli. What is the use of that microvilli? it can take the nutrients. So after this, what comes here? Zona pellucida comes, as we will explain later. Now this is the zona pellucida. Then after the bus comes what? Corona radiata cell. They derived from the follicular cells which were previously there. So it will try to extract nutrients. So it increases the surface area for taking the nutrients that are being provided by surrounding cells. So now this was about the plasma membrane. Now you can see that between there is a space here. This one is called ooplasm or nothing but cytoplasm. It's called cytoplasm or ooplasm. So the cytoplasm of the ovum will be extensive. That means the ovum has more cytoplasm content compared to the sperms. Because sperms have very less cytoplasm, all the components necessary for subsequent division of the formation of zygote and subsequent development of early embryo, all that necessary substances will be present in this cytoplasm. And this cytoplasm is called as ooplasm. So here between plasma membrane and the zona pellucida, here there is a space. This space is called perivitelline space. So this space is useful during cortical reaction. Now next is zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. Zona pellucida comes just under the corona radiata or towards the outside of perivitelline space. Now what is the function of this membrane is? It is a non-cellular membrane. That means it is not composed of any cells here. But you can see there is one membrane here, outermost layer, that is cellular membrane. But this zona pellucida is non-cellular membrane. It is transparent. So basically features are it is transparent. Now third is there is one abundant chemical in zona pellucida and that is called glycoprotein. So zona pellucida is rich in glycoprotein. So zona pellucida these are the features of zona pellucida. Zona pellucida plays a very important role in preventing polyspermy. After the cortical reaction, the zona pellucida becomes hard and impermeable so that there is no fertilization with other sperms. Therefore, it prevents polyspermy. Now comes the last layer of ovum. This layer is called corona radiata. the cellular layer. It is not, yes, you cannot tell it's a non-cellular. Non-cellular layer is zona pellucida, whereas corona radiata is cellular layer. And it is derived from follicular cells. So some of the follicular cells remain binding to this zona pellucida. They continue to bind or stick to this zona pellucida, and even after ovulation, it remains surrounding the zona pellucida. Even zona pellucida remains attached, remains to be covered with the remains to cover the ovum. Now, what is the function of zona pellucida is it will prevent the embryo from implanting in an abnormal site, or it will ensure that the implantation will occur in a correct site. That is the function of zona pellucida. The corona radiata will stick to each other, that is they bind each other because of a chemical called hyaluronic acid. When this chemical is digested, then cell separation occurs. This is also one of the events occurring in fertilization, which we will be studying in the subsequent classes. And ovum, if any layer of the ovum, if it is secreted by the actual oocyte, it is called as primary layer. And if it is secreted by follicular cells, it is called secondary egg membrane, or one more is called primary egg membrane. So if the membrane is due to ovum, primary egg membrane, otherwise it is secondary egg membrane. So this is nothing but the structure of ovum.